News, Apple announced Friday they're going to be providing free iPads, MacBooks, and Apple TVs to 114 U.S. schools in an experiment to bridge the tech divide between rich and poor students.
So presumably they're going to give these all to rich students.
No, they are not. So I thought this was interesting and would be a good thing for us to discuss because, you know, our school district has iPads.
Yeah.
They're not wonderful.
You're not going to like what I'm about to say. They're not wonderful. This is clearly a response to the fact that Google Chromebooks have suddenly become dominant in schools. 21% of all purchases last year were Chromebooks, and that came at the expense not of Apple, ironically, but of Windows machines. People were buying replacement computers for their Windows laptops, and instead of buying another Windows machine, they were buying Chromebooks. But Apple, I think, is also a little bit concerned. They'd like to see more iPads in schools. I think that a Chromebook is maybe better. It's got a real keyboard. It's a real computer. It's much more limited in terms of games and distractions. iPads have to be carefully monitored and controlled. There's a massive investment that the school has to make in software to run the iPads, to maintain the iPads. And iPads themselves are very expensive and somewhat fragile. They're twice as much as a comparable Chromebook, and I think considerably more fragile. So I think that a school should think long and hard before going to iPads. It's been mixed here at our schools, right? The kids love them.
They do. Well, they do. I mean, my kids miss the keyboard, though. They don't. My kids actually don't love the
Interesting.
iPads. So that's what I said when we talked about this story on Friday, and I said, and Jason and I both agreed, like, yes, I prefer Chromebooks. I got an interesting email from Keith George. He's at the Alabama State Department of Education.
All right. Well, here's somebody who knows.
You know, he says it's not about the device, it's really about the lesson, which I think you would agree with too.
100%.
And so that every school district should think about the lesson first, think about what they want to teach, how they want to teach before they teach. He says, I often try to analogize this another way. Would we spend any time at all debating whether schools should accept pencils over pens? No, because they are just tools. The same should be remembered for technology. There are lessons that would be best completed using a laptop or a Chromebook. There are other lessons in which a tablet would be best. There are still ones in which a full desktop computer would be ideal. In a perfect world, our students would have access to a multitude of different devices so that they could select the most appropriate tool to complete the task at hand and be exposed to multiple systems because we cannot predict which one they will most likely use during their career.
Clearly, Keith, but as you know, I'm sure, budgets are restricted. You can't have something for every kind of thing. And many schools are, I'm thrilled to see, doing one-to-one programs that, like our school is, where every kid entering kindergarten, and it's K through 12 in Petaluma, will have an iPad. And I agree, that's better than nothing. And I don't hate the iPad. And you hit my hot button, which is, it's sad because what often happens, and I think this happened in Petaluma, is they get a grant for the hardware, but not for teacher training, not for curriculum, not for all the support. That's much more important and much more expensive.
And that's what Apple's doing with this program.
Good.
So this is Apple. So this, yeah, what you said, it's a grant. In the LA Unified School Districts, that was a disaster.
They're suing Apple and Pearson.
And Pearson. And that, so this
which
is,
made the curriculum for this.
So this is Apple, like, they are adopting, and an executive is adopting a certain school district. So like Eddie Q is adopting a school district. He's in charge of it, and I think he grew up with Cuban parents, so he you know, is in a school district where most of the kids speak Spanish and feels really, it seems like a great program. That an Apple employee is going to spend 114 days a year at the school working with them.
That's important.
It's specifically rural communities. Because the other thing I said was, you know, it's not the same as it used to be. Like, I feel like my kids' teachers really do understand this technology, and it's not like it used to be when, you know, maybe even when your kids were in school.
Well, do you remember, even on the screensavers, we did a big thing of wiring a school. I think we spent a three-day weekend wiring up a school, getting Ethernet in there, getting computers in there, and then we left. And I think that that's really what often happens, is companies come in, they give them hardware, and then they say, okay, hey, good luck, have fun with that, and they're gone.
Right.
And the teachers then have to figure out how to use it, how to incorporate it in the curriculum. And very often what ends up happening is that these new computers or tablets end up in the back of the class, collecting dust. Maybe if they're lucky, there's a kid in the class who's, you know, a smart kid. I talk to a lot of kids who are the IT department for their schools because schools don't get any support. So I'm thrilled to hear that Apple is doing the most important thing. It's not just providing the hardware, but the training, the support, helping schools get going with these things. Because I do think it's important for our kids to be exposed to technology. And I agree with Keith. when he says we don't know what kind of technology the kids will be using in 10 years. How could you know? And certainly it won't be what we're using today.
Right.
But the most important thing is getting them comfortable with technology and understanding both its power and its limits.
Right. And I think that's, to your point about Chromebooks being cheaper, that's another reason why they might be the better tool, because you change them out, whereas an iPad is more expensive, more of an investment.
It's up to each school,
right.
And they need to know what they can do. And if you happen to have administrators who know and understand iPads and the IT requirements, and you have teachers who know and understand it, and there's curriculum, get an iPad by all means. But I feel bad because our school district was funny because they only had one Chromebook, I think, for every 2 kids or every 3 kids. There wasn't a one-to-one program. And that didn't work so well, right?
No.
We ended up getting Michael his own Chromebook because it wasn't, they're a couple $100.
Right.
I do notice that he uses the iPad a lot more than the Chromebook, so.
Well, Wi-Fi is also an issue, and this program is doing some interesting things, like they're in neighborhoods that don't have good Wi-Fi. They have equipped school buses with Wi-Fi, and they're parking them in those neighborhoods.
Wow, that's really interesting.
So, yeah,